Hi, I'm Lindy Sargent and from Barton, Vermont, and I am with the Barton Community Giving Garden, a place that I helped start, I work at, and I love. Well, I wanted to share the mission first for you, and it's our goal in Barton Community Giving Garden is the creation of a resilient, restorative, and curative place where all can gather to grow food and community. And we wrote this last year, early in April 2020, a group of people getting together and getting very excited about it. But we started the year before. In 2019, there was a Hunger Council meeting held here in Barton, and Pam Kennedy and I happened to be there. I didn't even know Pam at that time. But Martha Braithwaite, who is the director of the Northeast Kingdom Organizing, she's NECO, she asked us after the meeting, after listening to comments about what we liked about food and growing food in the area. And she said, what about starting a community garden? And so we said, sure, that sounds like a good idea. And that was probably in the winter. So we started by surveying the town in town meeting and asking people were interested, would they like to volunteer, and we had quite a good interest built up. So we looked for a location. We wanted it to be right down in central Barton so that everyone could kind of just see it and be able to be part of it. And then after that, we, went on our lives and had volunteers that built 3 beds, 1, 2, 3, and they had, we got soil, we put it together. We probably had about 8 people then that came from maybe even a few outlying areas. And we had a garden that we planted and then left. I mean, I left that year to go out west and see my kids, and came back in July, and well, it was kind of scrabbly. This area here you see was surrounded, it was open, but it was surrounded by this knotwood forest. And it had been used a while ago, quite a while ago, by seniors who had also had a garden. And for some reason, again, this area was open. So we said, well, let's work it again. Those 3 beds were just placed willy-nilly. We had one that a community person wanted to have as their community garden, but that didn't really work for her either. So we ended up just harvesting what we could. I think it was one big stainless steel bowl of cherry tomatoes, and we brought that to a location for people to have. So then after that year, we really started to think about it more, that we wanted to grow it, and maybe we just have a giving garden. We wouldn't worry about trying to find people who wanted to grow their own food. We would just have it be for the community. The pandemic started. We were able to meet by Zoom, and we organized a lot of interest in people just by getting the word out that that's what we hope to do. And a lot of energy was created. So we then, that summer in 2020, and we also built up interest by hosting a meeting at the library this was before the pandemic, showing a TED Talk by Farmer Floyd in Connecticut, who grew an amazing giving garden. So that inspired us all. And we had a book discussion that was about Seed Folk, which is a wonderful book about, community spirit in a garden. And so we did a few things before the pandemic. And then, when that happened, it was just online doing these things. But we had volunteers, we had more beds, we had 3 more beds that people donated, and everything was pretty much donated. So then we got together in our work crew groups, which became just loving, nurturing, solve the problems of the world while you're weeding, garden groups. It was so much fun. And lo and behold, at the end of the summer, we had 2,000 pounds of food, which we had given away. We had help from others who weren't able to come in and work during our morning hours, but they helped find distribution sites, the senior centers, the library, picnic table, the lunchbox, which came, as you know, around Vermont to the schools, and offered food to supplement what they had. And so it was just an amazing, enormously fun project. So then 2020 came along, and we were really well experienced, and we were able to, again, get more donations. The manure came from a fellow in town. The compost. Black Dirt supplied a load of compost for free, and then this year we got another one. Bales of hay, organic hay, came from a farmer up in Holland. So we had a lot of interest, as well as from the village.
Hi there, my name is Patsy Tompkins. I am the director for the Barton Area Senior Services, which is a meal site and a community hall. The produce that we've learned how it's grown and what they do with it and everything, we end up with the finished product. And what we do is we prep it, we cook it, we do meals with it, and then what we have left we freeze, and we use that in the wintertime, so that they're actually getting fresh vegetables year round, but they're frozen. And we have a process that we can do it so they don't get freezer burn. It takes all the moisture and everything out, so they do last good. There is nothing better than seeing a meal with fresh vegetables in it, produce, fresh fruit. And we have, in our area, we have a lot of clientele that are food deprived, and most of them are too proud to tell anybody that they need help. And if you ask them if they need help, especially the veterans and the seniors, they'll say, "I'm fine, give it to somebody that needs it." Well, they need it, but they're not going to ask for it. So eventually you just have to keep bringing them something, and then they'll get used to it. But they do sign up for it. We're doing, I would say, probably 61 meals twice a week for Barton, and that includes Meals on Wheels, and we have certain clients that pick up. They're able to drive and whatnot. And then we are helping Glover with their Meals on Wheels because they lost their director. And right now they're closed, but they're going to be opening up soon, which is exciting. And that's another 130 meals that we prep on the weekend, and they get delivered on Monday. We make sure all of our clientele and whatnot have at least seven meals. So they have one for every day. Barton, we also do breakfast and lunch for them. So they might get hard-boiled egg and a banana, or a hard-boiled egg and like that, but at least it's something for breakfast. They get milk. We make sure they get their whatever milk they want. Juice. We have a nutritionist that checks our menu every month and makes sure that they're getting their vitamin A and their vitamin C, and so this is a godsend for making sure our menus meet the standards. I think it was last month in our produce drop from here, there was a bag with edible flowers in it, and most people really don't know about edible flowers. And as soon as I saw them, I said, "Oh my gosh, those are edible flowers." So I put them on one of our gentlemen who is a vegan. I put it on his meal, and when they handed it to him and they unload and put it in there, he looked and he goes, "What's that?" And so the driver said, "Well, that's an edible flower, and he goes, "Oh, okay. That's rot purdy." But little things like that, it makes their day, and then it also makes our day. I'm not going to cry, I promise. I know. I don't know. It's such a it makes me happy.
The arthropod phylum, it does a lot of work for us, and because we're so thankful for their contribution to our soil, we built them a hotel. The idea came from a public garden in Parma, Italy, and you can see that there's places for bees, and there's different types of wood, leaves, and there's also a big smile here because we're happy to have the arthropod phylum living in our bug hotel. And I totally suggest every community garden build a bug hotel because they work really hard with the pollinators and they serve us. And so we have to be thankful for them.
Hi, I'm Pam Kennedy, and I was one of the people that was approached a couple of years ago about starting a community garden here in Barton. And it's been just so exciting to watch it grow and see so many wonderful volunteers come forward. One of the benefits, as well as providing food for people, that's happened is we had a great chance to share information with each other. And so one of the things we've done, the garden's evolved in the second year because we share a lot about what our favorite varieties that we've tried at home. And so we're both sharing things that we know work and experimenting with things we've been wanting to try. Some of the varieties we wanted to share with you, we've tried some different kinds of lettuce and actually harvested a lot of lettuce. I think it was like 10 pounds of lettuce, which is great. And Paris Island, which is a type of romaine, has been a real favorite for us. We've done some work with winter squash. We still have to perfect our growing here, but we know that we want to get more delicata for people. We love growing the summer squash, and patty pan's been a big favorite for people to try. We're going to have more sunflowers next year. This year we only have one or two, but we voted for teddy bear sunflowers to take some place next year. We grow a variety of tomatoes, and most of these tomatoes come from our members' greenhouses or windowsills. So there are a lot of different varieties, and I was just mentioning these are potato leaf, which is a very old-fashioned kind of potato, like a brandywine. And one of the all-time favorites, even though it's very unusual to see, is the green zebra, which is actually green when it's ripe with striped, and it's delicious and just so beautiful, so definitely worth trying. We had grown some other kinds of beans last year and just a little bit of rattlesnake beans, which one of our members, Kate, grows.
Hi, my name is Cindy Delano, and I'm one of the volunteers here in the Barton Community Giving Garden. You've heard about our mission and how we're focused on creating food and giving it to families. We are also about creating community here and connections. We have been so fortunate to have support from local community businesses and individuals to help us with our endeavors. But the future of our garden, to expand our garden and to really make it a place where the community wants to be, is going to require lots more than just the donations. We've been very successful at writing and receiving several grants. We've had program grants and we have sort of infrastructure grants. Our program grants have come to us from the City Market and the Umbrella Group, and we've done various family programs, including seedling startings, digging potatoes, Kids Day, and we're coming up on our next family day here next weekend, and we'll be having various instructional gardening tips. We'll be having some cooking tips. I think we're making corn husk dolls, so lots of fun for the kids. In terms of expanding the garden and really creating an enduring community space, we felt we needed some substantial infrastructure. We've been very fortunate to receive a Sparks grant as well as a Better Places grant, and our plans to build an amphitheater here behind in the bank. We want to put in at least 3 rows of seating where we can have people sit and enjoy the garden, maybe have story time. We can have poetry reading, we can do concerts here in the garden, and the seating is really going to help us with that. So we're very excited to build this amphitheater. You've seen the overview of our garden with the knotweed around, and we're kind of limited in our growing space. So the Sparks grant gave us an expansion grant to help us expand our footprint to grow things. And we've been experimenting with knotweed eradication by doing raised beds with hard cloth underneath and suppressing the knotweed. Of course, we're organic here and we don't want to have any sort of pesticides. So we've had some success and we will continue to experiment. This is really a learning center. We try to teach what we learn to families, we share what we know with each other, and we do lots of experimenting and find out what works and what doesn't work, and try to do more of what works and what doesn't work. We hope you've enjoyed the sort of overview of the Barton Community Giving Garden, and hopefully it's given you some ideas that you can do with your friends as well.
Hello, I'm Kate Wolf, and I guess, and this is Mimi Carter, and I guess I have become sort of the resident carpenter, and I love that job because many years ago I was a builder professionally, and then I just got more and more tired and achy and decided I couldn't do that anymore, so changed careers. But this has been a great opportunity to kind of revisit that past of my life. And one of the first projects we were doing is building the raised beds that you've probably seen or you will see in the garden. And then we decided we needed a convention center. Is that what this is? Yeah. So
it's either a convention or education center.
Education center. Okay. So the which you'll see is the kiosk. So we built the kiosk. The point of it is really just to have a bulletin board, you know, and place for people to communicate with each other. On one side of it, there's a box with a notebook in it, so you can write down, you know, if you visited the garden, or people who work in the garden leave notes for other people for the next, you know, the next stint, that what we've harvested or what needs to be done, you know. So it's a communication area. And then the kind of natural sequelae to that was that we wanted a little library. And this was Mimi's idea. I believe she got in touch with me and it's like, can we build a little library? And I was like, well, yeah, I guess so. And I guess at first we talked about just putting it under one of the eaves of the kiosk, but then that was going to take up too much room. And I don't want to put another post in the ground and another whole independent structure. That doesn't make any sense. So spent some time figuring out how to build this little library. And I got very lucky because my partner, Jane, is a builder. I still build. And she had done a project where she had all this leftover red roofing, which I think just makes this thing, you know, sets it out. And so we got some scraps from the leftover job there of red roofing and was able to put this together and put these plexiglass doors on so you can see what's going on. Probably won't leave the books in it all winter long. Probably not a good idea.
No, actually there's for those Vermont gardeners, there's one of Lewis Hill's personal collection.
So this is, you know, it's like a typical little library. It's a lending, you bring a book, take a book, you know, totally on the honor system, borrow and return. Thank you. That's our signage there. So. And
I'm at the Barton Public Library, and I want to tell you a little bit about a Master Gardener project we have here. About 5 years ago, when I finished the Master Gardener program, I was looking for a project, and I had read about seed libraries but didn't know too much about them. I had saved marigold seeds or a few things in my garden, not much, but I walked in and spoke to my friend, the librarian, Tony, who has never saved seeds, and I said, I've been thinking about a seed library, and she said, I've been thinking about a seed library, and that's how the seed library was born. So we recruited a few volunteers. We wrote to lots of really good non-GMO seed companies, especially ones that had heirloom varieties, and asked for donations of their last year's seeds, and the response was overwhelming. So we've been operating for about 4 years now. We get seeds from about 15 companies. we're beginning to get seeds back from folks that are actually growing them out at home, which is one of our future plans, is to have varieties that have actually grown up here in the Northeast Kingdom and are adapted to our climate. We're especially interested in keeping heirloom varieties going, and we really encourage that. We have a very simple system. When I came, I knew that I couldn't ask the librarians to do any work because there's one librarian here and sometimes two, and it just doesn't work. So we created a self-serve kind of notebook with forms that people fill out. They keep a record of what they've borrowed. If I can get there, maybe not. Like this. And then they give us notes to tell us how things did, and they bring seeds back. We're hoping that they'll do more than that. We have lots of patrons who visit, but we also have boxes at a local museum, the Old Stonehouse Museum in Brownington, wonderful historical museum, at 2 other libraries here in the Northeast Kingdom. And last year, when we were really at the beginning of the pandemic, and the library was closed, I operated the seed library out of my house, but I also had boxes of seeds go out to food banks around our county, churches, any nonprofit that wanted seeds. We put together boxes. So we've been able to really keep people growing. We work hand in hand with the community garden, and luckily we're right next door to each other. So, and lucky for me, now I work here at the library. It's my old age job, so I'm in heaven. Got the garden, got the library, got the seeds. Thanks.